Hello everyone. Yeah, thanks for joining this. I really appreciate your time coming along to see what I'm going to be rambling about for the next little while. Um, Session's called Blueprint for Success: Navigating the Role of a Power Platform Solution. A lot of this is just my kind of thoughts and opinions, so you take it with a pinch of salt, but also welcome everyone's input and discussion on this as well. So it's a very open-ended kind of slide deck. So the agenda for this session, we'll just have a quick introduction to who I am for any of you that don't know me. We'll then jump into what I think the role of a Power Platform Solution Architect is and what it encompasses. And then how Power Platform Solution Architects can design robust, simple, and scalable solutions. And we'll look at building client relationships and the importance of that, how we can manage team resources within the project, common challenges and solutions that I've kind of found over the years of doing this, some future trends that I think are going to be more important as we kind of navigate the kind of waters. Then we'll just finish up with a roundtable discussion and any questions, but please do just jump in if you do have any. I can't see the Teams window, so do speak up. I encourage everyone just to be as interactive as possible. So a quick introduction to me then. My name's Josh Giles. I'm a Power Platform Solution Architect at a company called Bridgel. Been here just come up to 3 years now, so I guess that's considered a little while in the industry these days. I'm a member of the Scottish Power Platform user group organising team. I've been since kind of the start of the year. That's an event we hold fairly regularly, kind of around Scotland and also virtually. If you haven't heard of it, do check it out and feel free to reach out if you want any more information about upcoming events. I'm based just outside Glasgow in a small town called Carluke in Scotland. And outside of that, and outside of our platform, I'm a big Lego and aviation geek. Most people seem to be Lego enthusiasts in this space, so it's good to have a common kind of hobby that we can speak about. But yeah, I'm also quite mad on aircraft as well. I own a blog. Try and post semi-regularly. There's a QR code on the bottom there if you want to check that out. But do also reach out to me on LinkedIn if you want to continue this discussion or just discuss anything in general with me, to be honest. So before I get into the next slide, it'd be good just to kind of gauge the kind of audience here. So can I just get kind of like a thumbs up for kind of who here is looking to be kind of an aspiring kind of Power Platform Solution Architect? Of course, I can't see that. That probably doesn't work. I'll assume there was a few thumbs up. So hopefully you've kind of joined the right session. It's not going to be very technical. It's very kind of high level, but hopefully you can take and learn from some of these principles and apply them and to help you kind of take that next step. And if you're already in that kind of position, hopefully you'll learn something new as well. And I'm open to learn stuff as well. So I'm looking forward to some discussion points as well. So first up, the role of a Power Platform Solution Architect and what I think that is. I think a lot of people may have slightly different definitions of that. So the Power Platform Solution Architect, you're kind of that linchpin of kind of design, development, and implementation of Power Platform tools. There's other important roles as well, but you're very much central to that that side of things. We possess technical expertise with a very wide knowledge of Power Platform and Dynamics 365 solutions. So, we all know that Power Platform and Dynamics 365 is a very, very broad technology stack. It's very difficult to be masters of all of that, but it's very important that we have a very good awareness of all of that. And beyond that as well, a lot of us come from maybe technical or non-technical backgrounds. and that can play into it as well. So you need to have a very good kind of knowledge set as an architect to understand kind of how to implement solutions and develop them. So we're also very good with collaboration. We're able to communicate effectively at very kind of differing levels. So from very technical conversations to more kind of business-led, non-technical conversations. This will be a recurring theme throughout this talk. Really, you'll notice it will come up several times, and I think it's a very important skill to have in this kind of area as an architect. Yeah, and we're able to kind of design and implement those technical solutions from business requirements. So that's kind of like taking those requirements, translating them, and aligning them with kind of strategic and project goals and the client's needs. There is a strong emphasis on non-technical skills, like I've kind of already alluded to. You need to have very good soft skills of the role because you are doing a lot of non-technical stuff alongside it, and also you're kind of touching multiple different areas. So you need to have a good understanding and kind of good skill set for soft skills. But if it's something that you're maybe a bit weak on or not sure on, definitely think about kind of upskilling in that area, because personally that's been the one area that's kind of helped me kind of springboard my career, really, is learning to be a bit more kind of better with the soft skills and continuing to learn with those soft skills as well. But we're able to act as trusted advisors to our clients as well. So we need to build those relationships. Again, I've got a bit more kind of detail on that later on. Being able to be a trusted advisor to our clients allows us to be a lot more informed and understanding of the needs of the client, and they're able to kind of trust and kind of use us more to build that trust with them. We're able to inspire, mentor, and challenge teams. So, managing a project team, we're able to kind of help and guide maybe less experienced developers, guide them through kind of maybe what the vision of a solution is, and just generally kind of help them kind of progress as well. Not to challenge their skills. I think it's very important that we continue to challenge everyone in terms of skill set to allow that kind of healthy progression. And just a final point in this, I believe, it's just this knowledge is power as a Power Platform solution architect. We always need to kind of keep our skill set fresh, always learn new things in both technical and soft skills, so that we've always got that very kind of well-grounded and wide knowledge set. So moving on to designing robust, simple, and scalable solutions then as a Power Platform solution architect, and what that means. We do that by understanding business requirements. We provide value to our clients by ensuring that everything aligns with what they want us to deliver. We're able to translate that technical, so that non-technical, into the technical to build that vision for the client. We're able to leverage the full stack of tools that we have at our disposal. I've put here that utilize the full range of Power Platform tools, but really, we don't want to shoehorn ourselves into any one thing. If there's maybe more kind of code first based tools that maybe work or a better fit, then definitely explore that, as well as obviously the full Power Platform stack. They all have unique strengths. It's important that we use those strengths and leverage those capabilities that they have. Next up, we've got a data model. It's a very, very important part of designing kind of solutions that can scale, that are simple and robust. Data model needs to be kind of flexible and easy to understand so that it can accommodate future changes. It can work in enterprise, and it's not overly complex, so that if you ever needed to revisit or expand that in the future, it will just become a headache. So always look to simplify it. If you come from a more kind of data background, it might be a bit of an interesting one, especially if you're working with things like Dataverse, where you wouldn't necessarily normalize data down to the nth degree. You would maybe stop at a certain point to provide a kind of more comprehensive and better user experience. So just something to keep in mind. But always iterate on that data model and improve it, and you'll find project by project you'll kind of get into the groove and a swing of things to get better at it. Think about modular design, so creating solutions that are kind of modular to make them more manageable, more kind of smaller in scale. It also allows you to kind of like, plug new modules in, take modules out. It's a good way to kind of think about the development. We always use, or lots of analogies we've used in the past around platforms like Lego blocks. So think of it like that in a way. You can kind of add a new block to it, or a new kind of model to that solution. But keep it modular. Don't shoehorn it. We're not making it modular. Consider security and compliance within your solutions. So things to consider there include your security model. If we're using Dataverse, if we need to use things like business units, security roles. So we need to sync that to Entra, ID security groups. You could make a full book on security alone, but you need to consider that security model and design in a way, again, that's simple enough that it's not too complicated, but also, able to scale and is easy to understand and manage going forward. If you're using something like SharePoint, then you've got other considerations as well, the SharePoint kind of permissions and access to things like lists and document libraries. I personally don't like that side of things. I think it's a bit more harder to manage than Dataverse. But yeah, you always need to consider that. And if you're using something like SQL as well, there's other considerations there too. So always consider that kind of security model and how that's going to work. And things like data compliance, obviously we've got some good kind of rich built-in tools in M365 that can help with that as well. So always consider that side of things too. It's just quite a big topic, is optimizing solution performance. We want to follow in best practices for things like app design to make sure that we're not making slow solutions. If you work with Canvas apps, we've all been there where we have either been handed an app, we've created an app, and it just isn't very performant. It's slow, it's sluggish, it just isn't what we want it to be. And as part of that design process, we're looking at ways to make it very simple and performant. Yeah, again, you want to design with scalability in mind. We want solutions to meet demands as business grows. So we're not limiting it in case if sudden expansion of a company, it should be able to handle 300 users or 3,000 users. It should be scalable for that. But that's not always a consideration, especially for kind of smaller projects. But it's certainly something to keep in mind. Continuous improvement. Always wanting to continually improve. Suggest something like a feedback loop and to kind of keep that strong communication in play. You can use technical and non-technical methods to achieve this. So, tool sets like your DevOps or, SharePoint and Teams to help with that kind of communication and feedback. And then just non-technical methods such as like scheduling meetings, that type of thing. So next up, we have building relationships and how that is important in our role. So we need to firstly understand client needs. So engaging with clients allows us to understand their challenges, what their pain points are, what their goals are, and what they're looking to kind of get out of that kind of relationship with you. Typically, we find, once you kind of get into that project phase, you're looking at things like workshops, surveys, stand-ups, all of that type of thing to gather requirements, ensure that they're kind of there ready ahead of development. We're able to be a fit communicators. Again, another common trend, communication. The clearer and more consistent you are with your communication throughout projects, the better that kind of relationship will be with your clients. Being transparent with those discussions as well, regarding things like progress, concerns, and updates will really help kind of build and foster that kind of client relationship. Building trust. Now, this is a really big one as well. We want to be able to deliver on promises that we kind of take to clients, meet deadlines, any milestones, because that's going to build credibility, and that's a really strong thing, especially in this industry. Because if you build that credibility, it means that they're going to come back again and again and again, and they're going to see you as that trusted advisor, and they're going to want to, use you for anything in the future. That's really important to build that trust. Delivering value. So, if we're building a solution, it's got to deliver value to the client. What value would that be? Is it, saving time? Is it, saving money? Is it something else? But, focus on delivering that kind of tangible value with our solutions. Again, really plays into that kind of client relationship. Feedback and improvement, much like I've already mentioned, we want to ensure that we've got a really good kind of channel for feedback and improvement to kind of nurture that client relationship. Being really transparent with a client, encourages more honest feedback, and that in turn is going to promote kind of more continuous improvement of your solutions and your services, because there's more kind of honesty put into that. Being close to the client. So, when you start building that relationship, you can start kind of being a bit more adaptive to changing needs and industry trends. If you're kind of in a good relationship with a client that's in a particular industry, you start to notice trends in that industry, or kind of how you can build better solutions based on those kind of industry specific needs. So it's a really good skill to possess. Again, positive reputation, the more chance of referrals and them advocating of your services, the better the relationship is, and that's really what we want to do, is nurture that and grow that. And just lastly, it's not just about delivering a project. It is about creating a partnership that's going to benefit the both of you, and in the long run as well. So next up, we have managing team resource. What that looks like as our platform solution architect. So one of the key things that I find is, defining roles, understanding what those responsibilities are within those roles. That means that everyone's going to work at their best once they know what their kind of area is. If you're a bit unsure, you're probably not going to get the absolute true potential out of someone as a result. So making sure that's kind of clear from the get-go will really kind of help projects and beyond, really. Resource allocation, you're making sure that we allocate, the correct resource based on skills, based on the project requirements, because we can play to people's strengths. I'm maybe better at a model-driven app compared to Joe Bloggs, who's better at doing a Canvas app. Well, maybe that should be something that's split across those two roles in that case. So we want to play to those strengths, because we're going to build better solutions that way. Again, communication, really, really important. We want to have regular meetings with your team. We want to discuss progress, address issues. We want to keep that discussion really open and honest as well. We don't want there to be people kind of holding back on those discussions. They're not always going to be easy. But in this role, again, being a good communicator allows us to have those discussions and keep them open and honest. Take feedback as well. I certainly don't know everything. I'm always learning on that front, so I'm always receptive to feedback and wanting to kind of impart my knowledge to others in the team as well. But doing that is going to keep everyone aligned in the know when it comes to things like projects, and even wider things, like strategy and teams and stuff. Skills development. So if you're not investing in your personal development and growth, then definitely it should be something that you should be prioritizing. It's, we all know Power Platform's moving at a very fast pace, and it's very easy to get left behind. So it's important that things like setting aside time to invest in the skills and personal development will kind of help promote more innovative and better development and solutions in the future. Think about what tools you can use to kind of drive successful projects. You want to use things, if you're using things like Azure DevOps or Teams and SharePoint to kind of automate certain aspects or arrange meetings or anything really to kind of, again, foster collaboration in a team. That's going to drive really kind of successful progress within your project. Again, kind of mentioned it just there, but being open to those new ideas, how we can collaborate and improve, because again, that side of things is improving all the time as well. So it's always good to keep your eyes open and be receptive to change. Feedback, it's really important we maintain a kind of feedback loop in teams as well, because we want to make sure that we understand everything, we're very clear on what's happening, and that feedback, kind of foster a no blame culture. Nothing's really wrong. It's just more about, what's the problem and how can we improve it. It should be kind of the team versus the problem rather than playing a blame game. And that way, you're going to make things a lot more efficient in the long run. Your colleagues and your teams can be a lot more truthful. We're going to share kind of better insights and better suggestions will come as a result. So it's a really important thing to keep open, be honest about it as well. Yeah, so just some kind of common challenges and solutions that I've found as my time as a Power Platform solution architect, what they are, kind of what I've found and what I've done to fix it, really. So the first one being kind of like performance optimization. Mentioned that before. We've got a solution that isn't very performant. If you get like a Power Automate Flow or a Power App, kind of, what do we do to kind of make sure that we are developing and creating performant solutions? This doesn't really explain it very well, but making sure we're optimizing things like our data models, our workflows, and apps. You can use things like performance monitoring tools. Think about the monitoring tools within Power Platform that you can use for apps. Things like browser tools, even simple things like flow run histories can be really useful in helping you spot bottlenecks and kind of addressing them. If you're using Power Automate and it's taking 5 seconds to return something to a user, you've got to think, is that acceptable, or is there something else we could do? Maybe something like a plugin would be better, or maybe eventually when they become available in GA, something like a low-code plugin might be a better option. Next up's requirements. So I think if you've done requirements gathering at all, you probably have come across situations where maybe not all the requirements have been right, or maybe requirements have been missed. The client maybe been a bit undecided on what the requirements are. So it could be it's a constant challenge trying to kind of combat that and ensure that we are able to deliver what's required based on the client needs. So think about ways to tackle that, having maybe more workshops or requirement gathering sessions, and be very detailed in kind of like what you're expecting and what you're expecting from the client, and trying to kind of get into the details to what they're expecting as well. If you're dealing with a client that doesn't even know Power Platform, then trying to kind of get them to understand some concepts can be challenging and kind of aligning to that. But the more communication you have with them, the better things will go. And using things like methodologies like Agile and that can help as well, because it's going to be a bit more flexible and kind of accommodating kind of changes, for example. User adoption and training. So it's something that I feel like is often very much overlooked. We can be very good at delivering a solution, we'll deliver it, and maybe that kind of element of hand holding isn't as strong as maybe it should be. So ensuring that we've got kind of a good kind of training and support package here to help the client through it, they understand the solution and how things work, how they can use it, will really kind of benefit them and also you as well, because then they're not going to come back, especially if things like support requests or stuff like that. So it also helps as well for iterating as well, because they'll have a clear understanding of the solution that they have and that they own. So it's really important that kind of adoption and training piece is well kind of spec out and included as part of like project deliverables. Next challenge, and it's one I come across very, very frequently, and that's custom versus out-of-the-box features. When do you use custom features versus out-of-the-box features? As solution architect, I feel a lot of the time our role is trying to rein some of that kind of stuff in a little bit and trying to make things as simple as possible. We've all probably been in a situation where we've had a solution or an app or something, and it's just grown arms and legs, yet just the way the clients have wanted it to go or the way you've been handed it. And being able to unpick that and understand it becomes really challenging. And you learn through experience that the simpler you can make an app, a flow, a plugin, anything, the easier it's going to be to maintain and use going forward. It's going to ensure that long-term maintenance and scalability of solutions as well. So my opinion, not everyone will maybe agree with this, but I do believe that we should be leveraging those out-of-the-box features as much as possible, providing that they meet the requirement and they're not kind of hindering on that at all. So yeah, if it doesn't meet that requirement and something custom, on the kind of code first front, maybe a PCF component or again a plugin might be a better fit. It's just making sure we're using the right tool for the job, really. Yeah, the next one is keeping up with updates. So what I mean by that is just kind of missing out on, what's new in Power Platform or just kind of in the tech space in general. It's moving at speed that it's so easy to kind of get lost or miss something. So, doing things like regularly reviewing things like the release notes, Power Platform's got that kind of release plan now, which is really useful to see kind of what's coming, what's already been kind of implemented. So if you haven't looked at that, definitely check it out because it's really, really good at kind of understanding where things are going in the platform. Already kind of mentioned this, but schedule learning and development time. Some companies, I think a lot more offering it now, offer that kind of like personal development days or time. Use that to your advantage to kind of really experiment or dive into some of these new updates and features. If you're that way inclined, I do a lot of this in my personal time as well. I find it very kind of interesting. So I'm lucky that way where I have time to do that too. And as well as participating in community events, talks, and forums, because I think I've learned so much due to the community the past kind of while now that without that I probably wouldn't be in this position. It's been or proven to be very kind of pivotal to me to kind of get involved in that. So if you're not involved in that side of things, think about kind of what that might kind of give you as well as giving back as well. And then lastly, just kind of cross-team collaboration, collaborating with other teams. It is a challenge because not all teams are aligned. Some teams might use different tool sets, they might work on different technologies. So it can be challenging to kind of, collaborate with them and make sure you're kind of all aligned and on the same page. So yeah, keeping that open line of communication, trying to align the teams and trying to find common ground, as well as, technical tools such as, again, like something like your DevOps or project management tools to kind of help everyone be kind of informed and aligned and really help with that. So last one then is future trends, kind of what I feel like it's important to kind of be aware of kind of moving forward in the role as a Power Platform solution architect. So yeah, you probably can get through a talk or a slide deck without mentioning Copilot these days, but it's kind of one of those things that's really being pushed by Microsoft. So if you're not starting to learn and invest into Copilot or AI in general, definitely start thinking about kind of at least understanding it and how it works and how it could be leveraged, because it's just going to become more and more common in client requirements and client needs going forward, I believe. Next up is integration capabilities. So, on that front, integration is a massive point within Power Platform. And it's always expanding, if we get new connectors added every time, new improvements for things like data flows. So being able to kind of keep up to date with that and understand kind of the different integration options that are available to us will be really important going forward. Governance, that's a really key point as well. Again, you could talk about governance till the cows come home, really, but ensuring that you can understand that side of things with Power Platform, how that kind of governance and security side works, because it's a completely different aspect, but you need to understand how that works, have a really good kind of foundational grounding for kind of overall solution development, in my opinion. It's becoming more and more prominent as Power Platform gets larger. The introduction of things like managed environments has seen massive growth over the last year alone, so I don't see that slowing down at all. Mobile and remote work solutions continue to grow, so it's just kind of understanding what that entails and how we can kind of meet those demands. Some companies are kind of mandating return to work, but I think by and large there's still a very large shift towards mobile and remote work solutions. So, understanding that need and what that might entail is really important. We've got great features that have kind of come out recently that can help us with that now. Things like offline capabilities or responsive containers and responsive design in Power Platform. Is really useful for things like that as well. Advanced analytics continue to expand as well. So we've seen things like Fabric launch with all of that side of things and the capabilities to be able to tap into Power Platform and Power Platform being able to tap into that as well. So that's a really interesting area that, if you don't understand it, at least understand kind of how it works and what's involved in that side of things, because that's just continuing to grow as well. And as you reach kind of more enterprise level solutions, you'll find that becomes more prominent in those solutions too. Sustainability is a massive thing that a lot of companies are talking about, being able to develop sustainable solutions, be it a solution that actually helps with sustainability or a solution that maybe helps, drive sustainability. So maybe they're decommissioning, on-premise hardware and replacing it with some Power Platform. So something that continues to kind of come up again and again, and something I feel will continue to be quite important going forward as the kind of shift to cloud continues. And that's it. Hopefully I haven't bored you all for too long, but yeah, thank you very much for listening to me there. Again, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or view my website, blog even. But yeah, I'd love to just open this up to any questions or discussions anyone may have.
Thanks, Josh. I think two things that I have noticed coming up more and more is like governance and security bit, and sustainability as well as being talked about more and more, like you say. So it's interesting to hear that in the solution architect role as well. But no questions from me. That was just a great session. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions from you now, Charlie?
Yeah, I was just looking for a statistic that I found the other day. It was to do with sustainability. Basically, it was a statistic to talk about how low code uses a lot less processing power than pro code in general, which I thought was quite interesting because I hadn't really thought about that side of things.
It's a really interesting point, isn't it? You would just always assume that it's maybe a bit more kind of resource intensive, but it's maybe not always the case. So yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, so then from a solution architect perspective, I think one of the always challenging things on a project is about requirements gathering. And no matter how well you do it at the beginning, things will always change. And then being able to adapt to those changes. Just wondering if you have any tips on that side of things.
Yeah, I think it's just being constantly challenging the client and working with them to get to the point that they understand what they want. From my point of view, you always kind of run into these situations where a client doesn't know what they want and is trying to kind of help them help you a little bit to get to that kind of bottom line. So again, just keeping that line of communication open, trying to keep it as simple language as possible. I think it's really important as well. Typically we're not dealing with clients that are very technical. So being able to be very kind of simple with our language and very kind of detailed in a business or with business language can really help with that. And I think that then allows you to gather what's required from a business perspective. And that's where the solution architect hat comes on, and you can say, okay, now we need to just translate that into something technical.
It's an interesting point, actually, because you'll be talking to people of varying technical levels, even during the same meeting, and you have to try and keep everyone engaged at the same time, as well as make sure that you get the information that you need in order to progress your project. So yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Constantly chucking on different hats and just trying to make sure that everything's efficient and goes smoothly.
And I think sometimes it's a case of, there are always going to be people out there that have more skill than you in one area. You've almost got to eat humble pie a little bit, but I think it's a good thing because it helps you as an architect kind of grow and kind of nurture your talents a bit more. So you just need to be open to that idea that, you're not, there's always going to be someone that has kind of a better skill set in an area. Leverage that, use that to your advantage. They're a subject matter expert. So, what's their opinion? What should we do with that?
And it's good because you then have someone to learn from as well.
Exactly.
It was really
just going to say that, Charlie. It's a really good opportunity to learn and grow, and as you kind of move through your career, with my hat on, having those stories of challenges, things that have changed throughout projects, and your input to that is really good for you individually as well, I think. And it probably toughen you up a little bit as well in terms of being strong in your own opinions and reining people in. So yeah, that's kind of what I take from it anyway.
And you need
I don't know how loud I'm talking, by the way. I'm trying not to shout.
You need to have that, though. I think you need to be quite strong-willed and have that kind of hat on as well, because you are going to come into difficult discussions, both with maybe your own project teams or with clients, and being able to kind of stand your ground a little bit. Not be rude, but just be very kind of willful and make them understand certain things. If that means just taking a step back so that you can understand maybe where they're coming from and they can understand where you're coming from, it's again, it all boils down to communication, and it's such an important part of the role, in my opinion, more so than any technical skills you could gain.
I think so, and I think that's what really makes experience in an architect role really valuable, because you gain that confidence and that storytelling ability to refer back to things that have happened in the past that give you the confidence to know you're right, but also actually give an example to that client that you're trying to convince. So yeah, it's interesting, relatable, but and I think that's where it could take years to become a really great solution architect.
Yeah,
For that
definitely.
reason.
Yeah, one of the
Is there
things
anything
that
else
I
from
was just going to say, one of the things that I read about was the difference between junior developers and more senior developers or solution architects. And one of those differences is that a junior developer will often see maybe one or two ways of doing things, whereas a senior developer or a solution architect will see so many different ways of doing it, and then instantly be weighing up the pros and cons of everything to try and figure out which is the path we want to go down and what would be good or bad about that.
Yeah, it's a really good point. You have to be very kind of, again, wide with your knowledge and your kind of skill set to understand kind of what exists. A junior developer will go down that rabbit hole, and they'll go down it so frequently that they think that's what you need to do every time, and that's not the case at all. You know, if you can having the actual ability to take a step back and think, no, that's not the way to do it, because what happens, so much complexity into the solution. We'll just step over that rabbit hole and do it this way, and make it so much more simpler. You know, that's a really important skill set to have. That, you know, that comes with experience, and you know, you have to go down those rabbit holes first, but you also need to kind of be, I think, reflective of that when you get to the bottom of it and say, is there another way that I could do that that's maybe simpler?
And every project you have something like that. And you're like, oh, I wish I didn't do it that way. Now I know.
Yeah, we won't name names.
So yeah, thanks for coming. Thanks, Josh, again. Another awesome session. Nice to see you, Charlie.
You too. Have a great time at Scottish Summit.
We miss you.
Yeah, I'll miss you both too. Enjoy.
Keep you posted.
Bye.
Bye-bye.